Hello and welcome back to the Lore Raider. The sci-fi genre is no stranger to over-intrusive governments or powerful megacorporations, and Metroid is no different. Whilst yes, the Metroid Universe is full of minor companies name-dropped here and there like FedTech Technologies, we will be looking at the four primarily biggest and most well-known corporations in the Metroid Universe and what it tells us about life in the Galactic Federation. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first corporation we want to look at is the first in alphabetical order, the Biologic Space Laboratories, also known as BSL. Their first debut was in Metroid Fusion, in which we see them going along with Samus herself on an expedition to SR-388, and later would save her life after she was rendered unconscious by X-parasite infection. From there, the rest of the game opens up as Samus' entire mission in Fusion takes place on the BSL research station, a space station built into a massive asteroid meant to research species from across the galaxy. While Biologic may have seemed a benevolent company, in truth they were as corrupt as they come. There is clear evidence that Biologic was doing business with the ringleaders, a corrupt element of the Federation military who used space stations like the BSL station to conduct bioweapons research. It's why the Nightmare's broken form, the freeze-dried corpse of Clone Ridley, and the Zebezian space pirates can be found on the BSL station. If that didn't paint Biologic Space Laboratories in a bad light, how would you explain Adam Malkovich's presence on the BSL station? The Federation saved the memories of important leaders and scientists, and yet instead of using the AI for actual military matters, they buried his identity and put him on a random research vessel. But while we don't know what happened to the BSL post-fusion, we can be happy that the company took a big financial blow, at the very least, given that their station kind of blew up. BSL wouldn't even be the first time a corporation fell into the pocket of the ringleaders, as another company, the Space Development Corporation, a company primarily interested in developing space station colonies and possibly planets, were connected with them. Few Metroid fans know this, but if you stop to read some text on screen on the other end, you will learn that the battleship was made, along with two sister ships, by the Space Development Corporation. The battleship and its sister vessels were evidently in use for so long that the other two ships were retired, and the battleship was gifted to the Federation. This likely explains why the battleship on the outside looks so run down and in a state of disrepair. Admittedly, we don't know for certain what role, if any, the SDC had in refitting the battleship, but given how heavy a hand the ringleaders had with BSL, I wouldn't let the Space Development Corporation off the hook just yet. Stepping away from Chozo-aligned companies, we turn our attention to the Metroid manga, to find ourselves perhaps the most well-defined company on the list, the Dominion. The Dominion, also known as Merchants of Death, were a military arms manufacturer who also made cutting-edge sentient robots and suits of armor. For most of their history, the Dominion did all they could to spark wars between different planets, and then would sell their weapons to factions on both sides of the war, thus cutting a huge profit. They would even kidnap civilians and bring them to their private planet for live-fire exercises as test dummies. At some point, the Dominion would become aware of Samus Aran, and become envious of her Chozo power armor she possessed, and attempted to kill her so they might harness that technology for themselves. This meant building bigger and better robots such as the Integra model, which gave Samus a run for her money, as well as the Hunter Killers. They even made a copycat version of her power suit, but as you expect, given it's Samus, it didn't really hold up that well. The last days of the Dominion was spent siding with the Greed Corps, the last remaining remnant of the space pirates, in their plans of galactic conquest, hoping to profit off the ensuing chaos. They were ultimately betrayed by Greed and discovered by the Federation and likely dismantled soon after. Thank goodness. The final corporation is one many Metroid fans are extremely curious about. That is Exelion Star Corporation, famous for inventing the Emmy robots. While we don't know much about Exelion, aside from the fact the Federation commissioned them to create the robots for the purposes of expeditions, what is most curious is the implications surrounding the robots. For example, many have questioned why in the world would research robots need to have Samus' abilities. And it is possible for the Federation at least to be able to do this to them, as we have seen download terminals in Metroid Fusion for Samus' abilities. Another question is, why are they built to be so strong that even a full-power gravity suit Samus cannot harm them? What so-called animals would they be investigating to warrant that? Well, the enemy raised a lot of interesting questions about Exelion. I'll leave it to the viewer to decide if they trust the Star Corporation has good intentions, or wonder if they're just in the pocket of the Federation again. Well, that was a brief look at the Corpos of the Metroid Galaxy. As you can see, ironically enough, the Corpos seem more competent than the Federation itself in many ways, but just as morally dubious, or in the case of the Dominion, outright evil. What do you think? Was I too hard on the Corpos? Let me know what video ideas you want to see down in the comments down below. Until then, be safe, be wise, and please pray for a true peace in space.